Welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering. Here we have Tonyscapone on the Epic Gamble versus Jared on Bant Miracles. Tony's put in a ton of work on this list. See a lot of his work here on YouTube as well. Plays on Twitch. We've got a first turn City of Traders powering out a defense grid, but that gets stopped by Force of Will. Jared's got a Ponder to continue digging for counter magic. This deck will just keep throwing punches. There are a ton of dangerous top decks, even potential miracles with some of the potential sideboard cards. I don't know that he's actually running the wheel main deck at this point. I believe it might just be a Burning Wish target. Forge the Soul, I believe, is the name of that card. We've got Jessica's Will to talk about the cards that are actually being played here. Slightly worse than Seething Song sometimes, way better in others, and then of course when you're using the business end of that to exile 3 cards later on when you're comboing off, that card is practically an Ancestral Recall in the deck. Of course, it does have significant drawbacks, but 3 cards is an awful lot of an advantage. And Force of Negation, there to stop the Burning Wish, so Jessica's Will got 4 mana, and Burning Wish gets hit by a Force of Negation. Double pitch counter. While the digging begins. Fiery Islet, the only mana source. Cash that in for a card later for now. Of course, taps for red or blue. Echo of Aeons. Faithless Looting is gonna dig. Repeatedly, at the first time and second time around. Reasonable target for Force of Negation as it actually exiles the card, preventing double duty. Exiling a Echo of Aeons is actually where you want to be. Not even remotely a drawback. It is just a Time Twister, even better than a Time Twister when it's in your graveyard. It doesn't take a card from hand. Find another Echo. Lion's Eye Diamond to go along with it, but this is his most likely chance of winning from here, having already run up against 2, and there's an Echo. So Jared has to respect this. A draw 7 is set up. For the very next turn, he has to find more counter magic, or else 7 new cards could easily in the end of this game. That's not a guarantee. Jared does have a ton of counter spells, potentially endurance as well. I mean, a lot of free spells, and we are out of the first couple of turns here, so even something like Force of Negation can be hard cast at this stage of the game. Undra. Ooh, and a Hail Mary Ice Fang. He has to hit a counter spell here, and he doesn't. Interesting. So the shields are certainly down. Fang showed up, drew a card, but that card gets shuffled away. See if the inability to hardcast Force of Negation is it being worthwhile. Well, passing the turn back, so that ended up being the correct play in terms of the cards that were drawn. That's not really how you do that analysis. To put some real thought into that in terms of what would be the optimal decision in terms of your odds of hitting it with the Ice Fang. You also have to count Brainstorm as a potential out there. Ice Fang into a Brainstorm, then you're seeing even more cards. These Bant Miracle lists are so grindy. During the team open, it's actually a Bant Miracle match that I might be remembering this incorrectly, I think they actually decided not to play the matchup and just consider that game a draw. Unrealistic that both players would be able to finish an actual match. Like a 60-minute game one. Here you go, Lion's Eye Diamond. And gamble. Row represents potential threat if his graveyard sticks around. Lion's Eye Diamond. Gamble. Now into defense grid. Only 2 mana available. Does draw a Force of Will. Force that, or you really see what else is going to be happening for the rest of this turn. No ability to interfere. Here goes another Echo. Storm. Fetch on board. Not even going to figure out which 2 to put back, because these are all getting shuffled in and 7 new cards are going to get drawn. Fence grid not able to stick, so Jared's still in this. Not really where you want to be. Letting your combo player draw 7 cards repeatedly. Form 5, couple of blue floating. 2 Echoes already out of the deck. Mox. Printing a Shatter Skull Smashing. Probably the most common use of that card, though it is potentially useful removal as well for creatures. Shooting, digs. Wow, and has to pass the turn, so that was certainly suboptimal in terms of the cards drawn. Just 10 life left. Uro. Represents a actual clock. Ice Fang could potentially get there in time, but feel much better about closing it out over the course of a couple of turns. He also draws cards when he attacks. Life gain, not really super relevant. Your opponent's capable of storming off for 20. There's pretty reasonable chance they could go for 30 plus life as well. Certainly not as important as the counter spells. Now, if you can get to like life, that starts to get interesting, but I mean, you could potentially do an absolutely absurd amount of damage or life loss with this deck, especially with a card like Horn. The backside of Bergie, so powerful. Being able to discard all of the cards from an Echo, for example, 14 cards. Not a card that you want to have resolving against you. And we have Force of Will pitching Force. Force is out of the deck, 2 of them out of his hand. Tony down to 5. Burning Wish. No mana. Passing the turn, so Echo in hand. Got to imagine no LED in hand, or else we would still spin one more time. Tomb's now a bit of a liability, as Ice Fang's actually going to eliminate the ability to tap both of them. Luckily, Bant Miracles doesn't have any type of range, no lightning bolts to steal the last few points of life. Prismatic Ending clears the Mox. Burrow goes up and like it's going to be one more turn. Sylvan Library. Well, it's certainly going to be irrelevant. Actually, don't like casting that Sylvan at all. Would have much rather had 3 mana open in case things do go awry. Perhaps on a draw 7 situation, you could have the ability to pay 3 against a defense grid. Echo hits the Force of Negation, and we are on to the next one. Yeah, even just being able to hard cast that Force of Negation. I do not like casting that Sylvan there. You've got literal lethal on board, but at any rate, Jared with a whole bunch of answers stopping really everything Tony wanted to do there. Was a close game, but Jared able to contain it. We'll see what happens post board. He actually has some tools that are major problems. Played against Jared with Ruby Storm a couple of times in the shop. Definitely want to be prepared for some of the sideboard hate. He is well aware of this deck. Tony will have the play. I'm not actually sure what the first turn win rate is for this, the build at this point, but pretty impressive. There are a lot of turn 1 wins potential. Force of Will, pitching Ice Fang Codal. Ice Fang doesn't have a whole lot of utility in this matchup. I guess it could hold back a Bergie from attacking, but that's not exactly impressive. Got Gamble. LED Echo in hand, and Jared doesn't have a pitch counter. It's going to be 7 new ones. It is. 7 new cards. Skip over a little of the shuffling for you there. See if this continues. You know, you can't mulligan these 7. Or this early in the game. Very much a consideration if you kept a hand that has a nice curve, the land drops that you need, and then you potentially draw into a hand with literally no land drops. I mean, the Echo, not only could it just lead to a game-winning hand, but even if you whiff, it could give your opponent a terrible hand. There's some fun magic. My estimation. Chrome Moxes all over the place. Mox Opal now. And a defense grid. Defense grid and pass. This is actually something that can be answered with these Bant lists, as it does run Prismatic Ending. Going to be Abundant Harvest. I think that's what it is. The new green. Oh, yikes. Deafening Silence. Absolutely brutal magic card. Yeah, this is going to require specifically Blast Zone. be able to get rid of that. Absolutely brutal card. But there are a couple of Blast Zones in the sideboard. Mercifully, it's a non-spell, so gambling for it. Blast Zone is played and not sacrificed right away. Could have opened up the door, but not enough gas left. Keep that fire going. End step. Blowing up the deafening silence. Oh, maybe there is some fuel left in the fire here. Drawing a card with Fiery Islet. Passing the turn, replacing it with another Islet. Sylvan Library. In one take. Oh, I do have Sylvan Library. Oh. Sylvan. Digging. Paying 8 life. Not really worried about his life total. Not going to be any likelihood of success with Bergie doing these last 9 points of damage. Miracle's pretty capable of stopping creatures in general. And here's a Teferi. Catch what he bounced there. Presumably a Mox. Defense grid. That's a Force of Will. Teferi's not actually amazing situation. Got a Bergie. Paying life. Got to imagine he's got answers if he was that aggressive with his life total. Bergie's a 4 of in the deck. Oh no. Probably got like an Ice Fang or something to... Well, it wouldn't even have Death Touch at this point. Currents? Sure. It'd be pretty spicy if the Bergie gets there. Mox. All the Moxes go for Burning Wish. Brainstorm in response. One mana from Bergie triggers. Tony will have a red mana float. Red fetches down to 1. Facing down 3 damage from the Bergie. None of this would have been really risky if it wasn't for paying 8 life earlier with the Sylvan. Play that often fine versus combo decks. Draw a bunch of extra cards, especially in a deck running Euro. Oh, and we got Chain Lightning. Chain Lightning with the red. Ice Fang flashes in. Draws a card. Would have been able to chump block the Bergie, but the Chain Lightning actually finishes the job, and we are on to game 3. See if Jared can keep it together. It's got to be regretting those extra cards off of the Sylvan, knowing exact damage from Chain Lightning. Not a very common way to lose a game against this deck. Generally all or nothing. Just a massive amount of life loss or damage. When you resolve Peer into the Abyss or any of these ridiculously powerful cards, it generally will do as much damage or life loss as needed. Wow. Chain Lightning. Taking down a game. Epic gamble. Jared's going to have the play. Leave that Chain Lightning up there for now. Really soak that in. Tomb, Lotus Petal. Already keeping track of Storm. Defense Grid. Oh, and it resolves. Oh, no. This looks like a loose keep here. Got a gamble. Tracking both LEDs. This could easily be a first turn win. We've got double LED being sacrificed. That's a little bit of a decision. I'd imagine Tony has a pretty clear decision tree there. For me, I'd have to really consider whether or not I want the potential to draw Echo of Aeons and have it be live without drawing an LED to accompany it. We've already got the card in hand. Jessica's Will is going to convert into 7 red mana, as Jared does have 7 cards in hand thanks to the Echo. Bergie going to come down as the Horn. Now cards being discarded. A couple of copies of Bergie. Lotus Petal potentially welcome here. Lion's Eye Diamond, exceptional at this point. Cast all of these cards from exile. Getting extra mana. Storm 12, we've got Gamble. And that might actually be lethal. Yeah, if he cracks LED in response, I think that's actually going to be lethal. Cracking for black. Have... Oh. It looks... Did I miscount that? I feel like if you've got black instead of blue there, I feel like you can just get Burning Wish into Tendrils. I may have confused my cards. It's possible he was gambling, not Burning Wishing. But now we've got Burning Wish into the Tendrils for the lethal, as Tonyscapone pulls out a first turn win after really scraping by in that second game and dealing lethal with Chain Lightning. He's rewarded with the turn 1.